You ever notice how some people will only keep you around when it benefits them? The moment you stop giving, supporting, or making their life easier, suddenly you don't matter anymore. And yet, we keep walking with them. We keep answering their calls, showing up when they ask, giving pieces of ourselves away, even though deep down we know they don't value us. Here's the truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand alone. Not because you want to, not because you enjoy it, but because walking with the wrong people will cost you more than being by yourself ever will. Think about it. How many times have you silenced your own needs just to keep someone else comfortable? How many times have you ignored the feeling in your gut that said, this person doesn't see my worth, because you were afraid of being alone? But let me ask you, what's worse? Sitting at a table by yourself or sitting at a table where no one respects you? What's harder, walking your own path or losing yourself just to fit in with people who don't even care if you're there? Standing alone is not weakness. It's a decision. A decision to say, I'd rather respect myself in solitude than betray myself in company. And once you make that choice, you'll see that solitude isn't empty. It's full of clarity, strength, and the power to attract people who truly value you. Because here's the reality, the wrong people can't stop draining you. If you keep handing them access, and the right people can't find you, if you're too busy hiding behind the wrong crowd. When you decide to make self-respect non-negotiable, everything in your life begins to change. The way people treat you shifts, the way you carry yourself shifts, even the opportunities that come your way shift. But the mistake too many people make is thinking that self-respect is optional, that it's something you compromise in order to keep the peace, to not upset anyone, or to hold on to relationships that were never built on respect to begin with. And that mindset is exactly what keeps people stuck in cycles of being undervalued. The truth is, when you tolerate disrespect, you are silently teaching people that it's okay to treat you that way. You're showing them with your actions that your boundaries are flexible, that your worth is negotiable, that your presence is something they can take for granted. And once you allow someone to place you beneath them, they will rarely ever see you as their equal again. You have to understand, respect isn't something you beg for. It's not something you chase. It's not something you hope others will give you. Respect starts with you. It starts with how you carry yourself, the standards you hold, and the choices you make about who gets access to you. If you don't respect yourself, people will sense it. If you don't stand on your value, others will walk right over it. Think about the times you stayed quiet when someone said something that cut deep. Think about the times you let someone dismiss you, belittle you, or push you aside, and you told yourself it's not worth starting a fight. That silence might have kept things calm in the moment, but it cost you something far greater. It cost you your own dignity. Every time you let it slide, every time you laughed it off, every time you pretended it didn't bother you, you chipped away at your own self-respect. And here's the thing, people notice. They notice what you tolerate. They notice what you let slide. And over time, they build a blueprint of how to treat you. If you're always available, they stop valuing your time. If you always say yes, they stop appreciating your effort. If you always forgive without change, they stop fearing consequences. Respect is earned, but not just from others. It's earned by yourself. You earn your own respect every time you stand up and say, this is not acceptable. You earn it when you choose to walk away, rather than let someone walk all over you. It's better to be alone than surrounded by people who strip you of your worth. Because being alone gives you the chance to rebuild, to reset, to remind yourself of who you are. Being alone gives you space to pour into yourself, to hear your own thoughts without the noise of people who don't care about you. But when you stay in places where you're not valued, you're sacrificing your peace for their comfort. You're shrinking yourself so they can feel bigger. That is not self-respect. That is self-abandonment. And self-abandonment is dangerous. It's dangerous because the longer you do it, the more normal it feels. You start convincing yourself that this is just how relationships are, that maybe you're expecting too much, that maybe this is all you deserve. But that is a lie. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be heard. The only question is, will you demand it? Will you decide that self-respect is no longer something you bargain with? When you make that decision, you'll start noticing shifts. People who truly value you will rise to meet your standards. People who don't will naturally fall away. And yes, that part is painful. It hurts to lose people, even the wrong ones. But what hurts even more is losing yourself while trying to keep them. Self-respect means choosing your dignity over their approval. It means saying, I would rather disappoint you than betray myself. It means standing tall even when your knees are shaking, because you know the price of self-betrayal is always higher than the price of standing alone. Let me put it like this. When you respect yourself, you set the tone for every relationship in your life. You tell people, this is how I expect to be treated. You draw a line in the sand, and you do not move it just because someone else is uncomfortable. You're not rude. You're not harsh. You're simply firm. Because firmness is how you protect your peace. Firmness is how you honor your worth. Firmness is how you ensure you never again settle for crumbs when you deserve the whole table. So many people are afraid of standing alone, but what they don't realize is that standing alone is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of stronger boundaries, deeper confidence, and healthier connections. Once you've stood alone, you stop fearing loneliness. And when you stop fearing loneliness, you become unshakable. You no longer cling to people out of desperation. You no longer settle out of fear. You no longer tolerate disrespect just to avoid being by yourself. That is the power of making self-respect non-negotiable. It makes you free. Free from people who drain you, free from situations that belittle you, free from the trap of seeking approval from those who will never truly value you. So ask yourself, where in your life have you been giving away your respect too cheaply? Who have you allowed to speak to you in ways that cut deep? Who have you allowed to take more than they give? And most importantly, why are you still allowing it? The answer doesn't matter as much as the decision you make now. Because the moment you decide enough is enough, the moment you decide, I will not betray myself for anyone, you reclaim your power. Remember this, standing alone might feel uncomfortable at first, but betraying yourself will always cost you more. When you respect yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. And once you learn that lesson, you'll never go back to walking with those who don't value you. Walking with the wrong people is one of the most expensive decisions you will ever make in life. And the scary part, most people don't even realize the price they're paying until it's too late. They think they're just keeping company, just having friends, just staying connected. But the truth is, every single person in your life either pushes you forward, holds you back, or pulls you down. There is no neutral ground. You become who you walk with. And if you're walking with people who don't value you, who drain your energy, who dismiss your worth, then you're paying with your confidence, your peace, your dreams, and your future. Think about how powerful influence really is. If you surround yourself with people who are lazy, negative, and small-minded, it doesn't matter how driven you are, you will eventually start lowering your own standards to fit in. You'll catch yourself complaining more, doubting yourself more, taking fewer risks because you're living in an environment where growth isn't encouraged. You'll dim your own light just so you don't shine too bright in a circle that prefers the dark. That's the hidden cost of staying connected to the wrong people. You sacrifice your potential on the altar of belonging. And sometimes it's not even obvious. Sometimes the wrong people aren't loud or toxic. They're subtle. They'll discourage you quietly. Are you sure you can do that? They'll laugh at your ideas. That sounds crazy. They'll downplay your achievements. It's not that big of a deal. And you might shrug it off once or twice. But when you hear it over and over again, it starts to get inside your head. You start second-guessing yourself. You start questioning whether you're capable. And before you know it, you've absorbed their limits and made them your own. This is how dreams die. Not because you weren't talented enough, not because you weren't willing to work hard enough, but because you surrounded yourself with people who didn't believe in you. People who couldn't see your value, so they made you doubt it too. That's the cost of walking with the wrong crowd. But it doesn't stop there. There's another cost piece. The wrong people are exhausting. They drain you with their drama, their chaos, their constant demands. You spend so much energy managing them, fixing their problems, trying to prove your worth to them, that by the time you turn back to your own life, you've got nothing left for yourself. You're depleted, you're stressed, you're tired, and you start mistaking exhaustion for loyalty, like you're doing something noble by carrying them on your back. But carrying the wrong people doesn't make you noble, it makes you stuck. every hour you invest in people who don't value you is an hour you could have invested in yourself, in your growth, and building relationships that actually uplift you. And here's the bitter truth. While you're out there giving your all to people who don't care, the right people, the ones who would respect you, support you, encourage you, can't find you because your time, your energy, your heart is already occupied by the wrong crowd. And let's talk about another hidden cost, identity. When you walk with people who don't value you, you start changing yourself to earn their approval. You silence your opinions because you don't want to upset them. You hide your talents because you don't want to outshine them. You soften your boundaries because you don't want to lose them. And little by little, you stop recognizing yourself. You become a watered-down version of who you're supposed to be. All because you're afraid of walking alone. But here's the truth, walking with the wrong people is lonelier than standing by yourself. At least when you're alone, you're free. At least when you're alone, you're not pretending. At least when you're alone, you're not selling pieces of yourself just to buy someone else's attention. There's nothing lonelier than sitting in a room full of people and realizing none of them see your worth. Now, I know what some people think, but if I walk away, I'll have no one. Yes, that's true. At first, walking away from the wrong crowd might leave you empty-handed, but empty hands can be filled again. What's dangerous is staying where you're not valued, because then your hands are too full of the wrong people to ever receive the right ones. Sometimes you have to let go, even if it hurts, to create space for better. And let me remind you, the wrong people aren't just friends. They can be family, coworkers, even partners. It's not always easy to walk away, but at some point, you have to ask yourself, what is this relationship costing me? Is it costing me my peace, my dreams, my self-respect? Because if the answer is yes, then the price is too high and you can't afford to keep paying it. Walking with the wrong people will keep you stuck in the same cycles, year after year. You'll keep wondering why nothing is changing, why you feel drained, why your confidence is slipping. And it's because you're carrying people who were never meant to go where you're going. Not everyone who starts the journey with you is meant to finish it with you. Some people are only meant for a chapter, not the whole story. So don't be afraid to let them go. Don't be afraid to walk alone for a season. Because when you do, you'll find out something powerful. Being alone is never as costly as being with the wrong people. There is a difference between being alone and being lonely. Too many people confuse the two. And because they fear loneliness, they run from solitude. They cling to the noise, the crowd, the constant presence of others, even if those others don't value them, even if those others drain them. But solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is power. It is the space where you finally get to hear your own voice, without interference, without judgment, without someone else telling you who you are supposed to be. When you are constantly surrounded by people, your mind rarely gets the chance to breathe. Every conversation, every opinion, every demand becomes noise that drowns out your inner compass. And when you can't hear yourself, you lose touch with your instincts, your clarity, your purpose. But solitude strips away the noise. It puts you face to face with yourself, and that can be uncomfortable at first. People avoid solitude because it forces them to confront the truth about their choices, their habits, their fears, their strengths. But that confrontation is where transformation begins. Some of the most powerful decisions you will ever make happen in solitude, because when you are by yourself, you're not performing, you're not pretending, you're not influenced by anyone else's agenda. You get to ask yourself the real questions. Who am I? What do I really want? Where am I headed? And without solitude, most people never slow down long enough to answer those questions honestly. They just keep running from distraction to distraction, filling the silence with noise, terrified of what the silence might reveal. But here's the thing. Silence doesn't hurt you. What hurts you is ignoring the truth it's trying to reveal. In solitude, you realize which relationships are serving you and which ones are suffocating you. You realize which dreams are actually yours and which ones you've been chasing because someone else told you that's what success looks like. You realize that much of what you thought you needed was never essential. It was just comfort. It was just fear of being alone. And solitude doesn't just give clarity. It builds strength. When you learn to stand alone, you stop needing constant validation from others. You stop living for their approval. You stop measuring your worth by who's clapping for you or who's standing beside you. You start building an inner foundation that no one can shake. Because when you've proven to yourself that you can survive without anyone else's crutch, you become unbreakable. You don't cling out of desperation. You don't settle out of fear. You walk with people because you choose to, not because you need to. Some of the most influential and successful people in history embraced solitude. Leaders, thinkers, creators, they all understood that their greatest breakthroughs came in moments when they were away from the crowd. They weren't afraid to step back, to withdraw, to sit in the quiet until the answers came. Solitude sharpens you in ways constant company never can. It allows you to process, to create, to strategize, to become. And here's what's ironic. When you learn to be comfortable in solitude, you actually become better at relationships. Why? Because you're no longer entering connections out of neediness. You're no longer trying to fill an emptiness inside you with someone else's presence. Instead, you come into relationships whole, grounded, confident. You don't cling, you don't beg, you don't settle. You can give love without losing yourself because you've already built that strength in solitude. Now, it's true, solitude can feel uncomfortable in the beginning. You'll feel the urge to reach for your phone, to distract yourself, to fill the quiet with anything that numbs the discomfort. But if you can resist that urge, if you can sit in the silence long enough, you'll discover that it's not empty at all. It's full of insight, full of peace, full of strength you didn't even know you had. And let's be clear, solitude is not isolation. Isolation is when you cut yourself off from the world out of fear or pain. Solitude is when you choose time alone as an act of strength and self-respect. One drains you, the other builds you. One comes from weakness, the other from power. Solitude is not running away. It's regrouping. It's recharging. It's reminding yourself of your own value before you step back into the noise of the world. When you cultivate the ability to stand alone, you stop fearing who leaves you. You stop begging people to stay. You stop making decisions based on the fear of being abandoned, because you've already proven to yourself that you can handle solitude. And once you stop fearing solitude, you stop being controlled by anyone else's presence. That's freedom. That's power. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat alone, in silence, with no distractions and just listened to yourself? When was the last time you gave yourself permission to step away from the noise, from the drama, from the opinions of everyone else, and just be with you? If it's been too long, maybe that's the reason you feel so drained, so uncertain, so disconnected. Maybe what you need isn't more company, it's more solitude. Because solitude is where you build the foundation for everything else in your life. It's where you recharge your energy, protect your peace, and reconnect with your purpose. Without it, you'll always be pulled in 100 directions, trying to please everyone, trying to fit into spaces that don't honor you. But with it, you'll find a strength and clarity that makes it easy to walk away from anything or anyone that doesn't value you. And that's the ultimate power of solitude. It teaches you that you are enough all by yourself, that your worth isn't tied to who sits at your table, who calls your phone, or who walks beside you. It's tied to you. And once you truly believe that, you'll never again be afraid to stand alone. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone has earned the right to sit at your table, hear your dreams, or walk beside you on your journey. Too often, people hand out their time, their energy, their trust like it costs nothing. They let anyone into their lives without asking the most important question: does this person actually match my value? Because here's the reality, if you surround yourself with people who don't, you will always feel drained, unseen, and unappreciated. But when you start filtering, when you start being intentional about who gets access, everything shifts. The people around you are either building you or breaking you. They're either watering your growth or suffocating it. And it's not about whether they're good or bad people, it's about alignment. Are they on the same page? Do they see you? Do they respect you? Do they match your values, your standards, your goals? Because if they don't, then all you're doing is dragging yourself down to their level, and eventually you lose yourself trying to keep up with people who were never meant for your path. Think about this. If you're always the one pouring into others, always the one giving, always the one lifting people up. But no one is doing the same for you. That's not balance, that's depletion. It's not noble to carry everyone on your back. It's not strength to always be the one who sacrifices. It's weakness disguised as loyalty. And it will cost you everything. People who match your value don't just take from you, they give. They don't just cheer when it's convenient, they show up consistently. They don't just say they respect you, they prove it with actions. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing proximity with value. Just because someone has been in your life for years doesn't mean they deserve to stay. History does not equal value. Blood does not equal value. Familiarity does not equal value. What matters is how they treat you now, how they respect you now, how they support you now. Because you could have known someone for 20 years, but if they've never once valued your worth, then their presence is nothing but dead weight. And dead weight will always slow you down. When you surround yourself with people who truly match your value, you feel it. You don't have to beg for respect. You don't have to chase validation. You don't have to perform for approval. You are seen, you are heard, you are supported. These people push you to be better, not smaller. They remind you of your strength when you forget it. They hold you accountable, not because they want to control you, but because they want to see you win. They don't feel threatened by your success. They celebrate it. They don't envy your growth. They inspire it. But here's the hard part. Finding those people requires courage. It requires you to let go of those who don't match your value. And that's where most people stumble. They know deep down that certain friendships, relationships, or circles are no longer serving them. But they hold on out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of the unknown. So they stay where they're tolerated instead of walking toward where they'll be celebrated. And in doing so, they block themselves from ever experiencing the kind of connections they actually deserve. You have to be willing to raise your standards, even if it means walking alone for a while. Because once you raise them, you'll stop attracting the same kind of draining, disrespectful people. You'll start attracting people who see your worth, because you finally see it yourself. Like value attracts value. Respect attracts respect. But as long as you keep lowering your standards just to keep people around, you'll keep getting the same kind of empty relationships. And let's be honest, it's not about numbers. You don't need 100 friends. You don't need a massive circle. You don't need constant company. One loyal, genuine person who matches your value is worth more than 100 who don't. Quality always beats quantity. The right circle will multiply your strength, not drain it. The right circle will remind you that standing alone was worth it, because eventually you found people who made you feel at home without asking you to shrink. So many people stay in the wrong company because they don't realize how much better life feels when you're surrounded by the right one. Imagine being in a room where you don't have to pretend. Imagine being around people where your growth isn't threatening, it's inspiring. Imagine being able to share your dreams without hearing doubt, sarcasm, or jealousy in return. That's what it feels like when people match your value. It's a sense of ease, of trust, of being seen for who you really are. But you won't experience that until you make the decision that you're done with less. You're done begging for respect. You're done tolerating crumbs. You're done explaining your worth to people who have already decided not to see it. When you make that shift, when you decide to protect your space like it's sacred, you'll notice something incredible. The wrong people will start falling away, and the right ones will start finding their way to you. So ask yourself, who around you truly matches your value? Who sees your worth without you having to prove it? Who pushes you to be better instead of pulling you down? And just as importantly, who doesn't? Because the answer to those questions will tell you exactly why you feel the way you do. If you feel drained, heavy, or unseen, maybe it's because you've been surrounding yourself with people who don't align with the person you're becoming. The choice is yours. You can keep walking with people who don't value you and pay the price, or you can stand alone for a season and create space for those who do. But don't ever forget, your environment shapes you. Your circle influences you. And if you want to live a life that reflects your true worth, You cannot afford to surround yourself with anyone less than that. One of the most dangerous traps a person can fall into is living for approval. From the time we are young, we're taught to seek it. Parents, teachers, friends, society. We grow up attaching our worth to someone else's nod of acceptance, to their applause, to their validation. And because of that conditioning, so many people never break free. They live their entire lives trying to please everyone, to be liked, to be accepted. But the problem is, approval is fleeting, shallow, and conditional. What people applaud you for today, they can criticize you for tomorrow. If you build your life on approval, you'll spend every waking moment chasing it, and you'll never know who you really are without it. That is why choosing growth over approval is not just important, it's necessary. Approval feels good in the moment, but it comes at a cost. It demands that you mold yourself to fit into boxes you were never meant to fit in. It demands that you silence your truth so you don't offend anyone. It demands that you play small so you don't threaten anyone. It demands that you trade authenticity for acceptance. And every time you give in to that demand, you lose a piece of yourself. That's why so many people look successful on the outside but feel empty inside, because their lives aren't built on their own values, they're built on the shaky ground of someone else's expectations. Growth, on the other hand, often requires you to walk away from approval. Growth demands that you do the uncomfortable thing, the unpopular thing, the misunderstood thing. It demands that you take risks that others will question, that you set boundaries that others won't like, that you say no when everyone expects a yes. Growth and approval rarely walk hand in hand. One pushes you toward becoming your highest self. The other keeps you trapped in the version of yourself that makes everyone else comfortable. Think about it. The people who have achieved the most, the people who have left a mark, were never the ones who obsessed over fitting in. They were the ones who broke the mold, who stepped away from the crowd, who dared to stand alone. And at first, they were criticized, they were doubted, they were mocked, but they chose growth over approval. And because of that, they became leaders instead of followers. That same choice is in front of you every single day. Do you want to fit in, or do you want to level up? Do you want to be liked, or do you want to be respected? Do you want to live a life that looks good to others, or a life that actually feels good to you? Approval will always keep you stuck in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being misunderstood. But fear is a prison. The moment you start chasing approval, you handcuff yourself to other people's opinions. You give them the power to control your happiness. If they like you, you're up. If they don't, you're down. Your self-worth becomes a roller coaster you can't control. And the truth is, no matter what you do, you will never please everyone. You can bend yourself backwards, twist yourself into knots, give everything you have, and someone, somewhere will still find a reason to disapprove. So why waste your life trying? Growth, in contrast, frees you. Growth says, I may not be liked by everyone, but I will be respected by myself. Growth says, I may lose people, but I will never lose me. Growth says, I would rather be misunderstood today and fulfilled tomorrow than approved today and regretful tomorrow. When you choose growth over approval, you reclaim your power. You stop being a puppet controlled by opinions and start being the author of your own life. But make no mistake, this choice is not easy. Choosing growth over approval will cost you relationships. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you the safety of fitting in. People will call you arrogant. They will call you selfish. They will call you difficult. And you will have moments where you doubt yourself. Moments where you wonder if walking away from their approval was the right decision. But then slowly, you'll notice something. You'll notice that you're more at peace. You'll notice that your confidence grows because it no longer depends on external applause. You'll notice that you attract new people into your life, people who don't just approve of you for who you pretend to be, but who respect you for who you truly are. The approval will always try to seduce you because it feels good in the short term. Growth, however, rewards you in the long term. The things you sacrifice for approval, your voice, your truth, your authenticity, are the very things you need to grow. So when you let go of approval, you actually gain everything you were missing. Clarity, confidence, direction, strength. You learn to stand alone without apologizing for it. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you never want to go back. So ask yourself how many of your choices are really yours and how many are made out of fear of what others will think. How many dreams have you buried because someone else laughed at them? How many boundaries have you ignored because someone else might get upset? How much of your life is truly yours and how much of it belongs to the approval you've been chasing? There comes a moment when you have to decide, do you want to be liked or do you want to be fulfilled? Do you want to blend in or do you want to rise? Do you want their approval or do you want your own respect? Because you can't have both. Approval keeps you where you are. Growth pulls you into who you were meant to be, and only one of those will give you a life without regret. Choosing growth over approval doesn't mean you become cold or disconnected. It doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop betraying yourself for them. It means you stop living for applause that fades the moment you stop performing. It means you finally stand in your own truth, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. And in that truth, you find strength that no approval can ever give you. So here's the challenge. Stop asking, will they like me if I do this? And start asking, will I respect myself if I do this? That one shift will change everything. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself, not with their opinions, not with their approval. And the person you'll never be able to escape is you. Growth is what makes that person strong, fulfilled, and free. Approval only makes that person a prisoner. Choose wisely. Choose growth. At the end of the day, life will always give you a choice to betray yourself for the comfort of others or to stand in your truth, even if that means standing alone. Every single point we've walked through leads to this one undeniable truth. Your value is not up for debate. You don't lower it for convenience, you don't shrink it for approval, and you don't hand it over to people who can't see it. Walking with those who don't value you will cost you everything, your peace, your growth, your identity. But standing alone will give you everything back. It will give you clarity. It will give you strength. It will give you freedom. And from that freedom, you'll attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right life. So don't fear solitude. Don't fear letting go. Don't fear disappointing people who were never invested in you anyway. Fear only this, wasting your one life on circles that strip you of your worth. Because when it's all said and done, you won't be remembered for who you followed, but for the courage you had to lead your own path. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be valued. And if that means walking alone for a season, then so be it. Because walking alone with dignity will always be better than walking with a crowd that makes you forget who you are. Stand tall, stand firm. And remember, better to stand alone than to walk with those who don't value you.